The fall the stars looked different out here. Captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, watching the view screen display a region of space that no human had ever seen before. His ship was small, barely larger than an old Earth frigate, but it was his. For 3 years, he had commanded exploration missions for humanity, charting new systems and proving that humans belonged among the stars. Not that anyone in the Galactic Collective believed that. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates," said Lieutenant Chen from the navigation station. Her voice was tight with nervous energy. "Still no response from Collective Command about our deviation from the patrol route." Marcus nodded slowly. The coordinates had come from an old data cache he had purchased on a frontier station. The seller had been a dying Vrathan trader who claimed the location held secrets the Collective wanted buried. Marcus had thought it was just the rambling of a desperate creature looking to make one last sale, but the coordinates were real and they led here to a sector marked as forbidden space on every star chart. "Keep us on course," Marcus said. If Command had a problem with it, they would have said something by now. Behind him, Vexlar shifted on his coiled lower body. The Srathi liaison was tall and serpentine, with scales that shimmered like oil in water. The Collective had assigned him to the Perseverance 6 months ago, supposedly to help with first contact protocols. Marcus had never trusted him. There was something cold in those vertical pupils, something calculating. "Captain Kane," Vexlar said, his voice a soft hiss. "I must protest this deviation. Forbidden space is restricted for good reason. The Collective does not make such designations lightly." "Noted," Marcus replied without turning around. "But we're already here. Might as well take a look." The view screen flickered, and suddenly the emptiness of space was interrupted by something massive. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. Orbiting a dying red star was a structure so enormous that his mind struggled to comprehend its scale. It was a ring, or perhaps a sphere that had been partially destroyed. Sections of it caught the red light of the star, revealing surfaces covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow. "My God," whispered Chen. "What is that?" "A predecessor installation," Vexlar said quietly. There was something strange in his voice now. Something that might have been satisfaction, older than the Collective itself, older than any living civilization. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The predecessors were legends, myths told to young species to keep them in line. Ancient beings who had built wonders throughout the galaxy before vanishing without explanation. No one had ever found proof they truly existed until now. "Scan it," Marcus ordered. "I want to know everything." The next hour passed in a blur of data. The structure was impossibly old, millions of years at least. It was generating a low-level energy field that played havoc with their sensors, and it was clearly designed by a technology far beyond anything the Collective possessed. Marcus felt excitement building in his chest. This was the kind of discovery that could change everything for humanity. Proof that there were powers in the universe greater than the arrogant elder races who looked down on humans as primitives. "Captain," Chen said suddenly, "I'm picking up multiple contacts. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're Collective military signatures." Marcus spun toward Vexlar. The Srathi was watching him with those cold eyes, and now Marcus saw what he should have seen months ago. This had been a trap from the very beginning. "You knew," Marcus said slowly. "You gave me those coordinates." Vexlar's mouth split into something that might have been a smile, revealing rows of needle teeth. "The Collective has known about this place for a very long time, Captain Kane. We have tried many times to explore it. Every expedition has failed. Every advanced species that approaches too close is destroyed by the installation's automated defenses. So you decided to send humans instead," Marcus said bitterly. "We're expendable. You are. Less valuable than others," Vexlar agreed. "But you are also primitive enough that perhaps the defenses will not recognize you as a threat." "We shall see." The communication console erupted with warnings. 6 Collective warships had surrounded the Perseverance, weapons powered and locked on target. On the view screen, Marcus could see their sleek forms, each one large enough to swallow his ship whole. "This is Collective Command." A voice boomed through the speakers. "Captain Kane, you are ordered to approach the installation and attempt entry. Any attempt to flee or deviate from this order will result in your immediate destruction." Marcus looked at his crew. Chen, young and terrified. Rodriguez at weapons, his hands clenched into fists. Kim at engineering, already running calculations for an escape jump. They were good people. They trusted him, and he had led them into this. Do we have any options? Marcus asked quietly. Kim shook her head. They're jamming our faster-than-light drive. We can't jump out. And they've got enough firepower to vaporize us 100 times over. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his decision was made. Take us in. Slow approach. If we're going to do this, we do it carefully. The Perseverance moved toward the ancient structure. As they drew closer, Marcus could see that the surface was covered in strange symbols, glyphs that seemed to pulse with faint light. There was an opening, a massive bay that could have held 100 ships their size. Captain, I'm reading energy spikes, Chen warned. The installation is powering up. Evasive maneuvers, Marcus ordered, but it was too late. The structure came alive. Beams of blue-white energy lanced out from hidden emplacements not toward the Perseverance, but toward the collective warships. Marcus watched in horror as one of the massive vessels was cut in half, its shields meaningless against the ancient weapons. The other ships scattered, firing wildly, but their shots dissipated harmlessly against the installation's barriers. They're retreating, Rodriguez said in disbelief. But the structure wasn't done. It turned its attention to the Perseverance. Marcus felt the ship shudder as something locked onto them. Not weapons, but some kind of tractor beam. They were being pulled inside. Cut all power except life support, Marcus ordered. Maybe it will think we're just debris. It didn't work. The Perseverance was dragged through the opening and into the heart of the installation. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the bridge. And then, with a sound like tearing metal, the ship came apart. Marcus remembered falling. He remembered the screams of his crew as the hull breached. He remembered being thrown into his emergency pod as the automatic systems activated. And he remembered watching through the small viewport as his ship, his home for 3 years, exploded in a ball of fire. The pod tumbled through the darkness inside the installation. Marcus could do nothing but hold on as it bounced off walls and barriers. Finally, with a sickening crunch, it came to rest. Marcus lay there in the darkness, broken and bleeding. His leg was twisted at a wrong angle. His ribs sent spikes of agony through his chest with every breath. The pod systems were failing, oxygen leaking into the alien atmosphere outside. He had perhaps an hour to live, maybe less. But Marcus Kane had survived worse. He had grown up in the ruins of old Chicago, fighting for scraps in a world that had been devastated by climate collapse. He had clawed his way off Earth and into the stars through sheer determination. He was not going to die here alone in the dark, killed by the arrogance of the collective. With trembling hands, Marcus opened the pod's emergency kit. He found medical foam and sprayed it over his worst wounds. He found a breather mask and strapped it over his face. And he found a small plasma torch, barely more than a tool, but it was a weapon. Marcus kicked open the pod's hatch and dragged himself out into the ancient structure. Every movement was torture, but he moved anyway. Somewhere in this place there had to be something he could use. A way to survive. A way to make them pay. He crawled through corridors lit by strange bioluminescent growths. He pulled himself over rubble and past walls covered in those flowing symbols. And deep inside, past his pain and rage, Marcus felt something calling to him. A pull, like gravity, drawing him deeper into the heart of the installation. Marcus followed that call because he had nothing else left. The relic Marcus had been crawling for hours or maybe days. Time had lost meaning in the darkness of the ancient structure. His emergency breather was running low on power, the display showing less than 10% remaining. The medical foam had stopped the bleeding, but his broken leg dragged uselessly behind him. Every meter forward was paid for in pain, but the pull was stronger now. Whatever was calling to him was close. The corridor opened into a chamber so vast that Marcus could not see the ceiling. Pillars of some crystalline material rose into the darkness above, each one covered in those flowing symbols that seemed to move when he was not looking directly at them. And in the center of the chamber, suspended in the air by nothing visible, was an object that made Marcus forget his pain. It was roughly the size of a human head, shaped like a geometric crystal with too many sides to count. Blue-white light pulsed within it, steady as a heartbeat. The light cast shadows that should not have existed, shadows that bent in wrong directions. Just looking at it made Marcus feel strange, like he was seeing something his eyes were not designed to perceive. The walls around the chamber were covered in glyphs, larger and more complex than any Marcus had seen before. Even without understanding the language, he could feel their meaning pressing against his mind. Warning. Danger. Do not touch. Marcus laughed, and the sound echoed through the vast chamber. He was going to die here anyway. His oxygen would run out in minutes. His body was broken. There was nothing left to lose. He dragged himself across the chamber floor toward the floating crystal. As he got closer, the light pulsed faster, matching his racing heartbeat. The air around it felt charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Marcus could taste metal on his tongue. He reached up with trembling hands and touched the relic. The universe exploded. Pain beyond anything Marcus had ever imagined tore through every nerve in his body. It felt like his cells were being ripped apart and rebuilt over and over again. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The relic had fallen from its suspension and now pressed against his chest, sinking into his flesh as if his body was water. And then the visions began. Marcus saw a civilization that spanned galaxies, beings of pure thought and energy, building wonders that made the collective's greatest achievements look like a child's toys. He saw them creating life, nurturing young species, spreading peace and knowledge across the cosmos. Then he saw the enemy. It came from the space between galaxies. A swarm of machines that learned and adapted and consumed. Everything they touched was broken down into component atoms and rebuilt into more of themselves. Planets were stripped to their cores. Stars were harvested for energy. Entire civilizations vanished in hours, leaving nothing but expanding clouds of self-replicating machines. The predecessors called it the consumption. Marcus watched the war through the memories embedded in the relic. He saw battles fought across light years, weapons that could crack planets being deployed by the thousands. The predecessors were winning at first, their technology far superior. But the consumption learned. It adapted. It grew. The predecessors realized they could not destroy it, only contain it. They built structures throughout the galaxy, massive installations designed to generate barriers that the consumption could not cross. They created weapons like the Relic, tools that could interface with any technology, overriding and controlling systems across vast distances. And then, for reasons the Relic's memories could not explain, the predecessors vanished. They left their installations running, their warnings carved in stone and crystal, and disappeared as if they had never existed. Marcus came back to himself lying on the chamber floor. The pain was gone. His broken leg was whole again. The rips in his suit had sealed themselves with some kind of crystalline material that glowed with the same blue-white light as the relic. He stood up slowly, testing his body. Everything worked. Better than worked. He felt stronger than he had ever been. When he looked down at his hands, he could see patterns beneath his skin, geometric lines that pulsed with light in time with his heartbeat. The relic was gone, or rather, it was not gone. It had merged with him, becoming part of his body. Marcus could feel it in his chest, a second heart beating alongside his own, and with it came knowledge, understanding, power. He looked around the chamber and suddenly he could read the symbols on the walls. They were instructions, warnings, histories, all compressed into a language that spoke directly to thought, rather than sound. The chamber was a vault, built to house the weapon key that could activate and control the containment network. And now Marcus was that weapon key. He walked to one of the crystalline pillars and pressed his hand against it. The pillar lit up instantly, responding to his touch. Through it, Marcus could feel the entire installation waking up. Systems that had been dormant for millions of years began to activate. Power flowed through conduits the size of city streets. Defenses that had destroyed the Perseverance came online under his control. Marcus smiled. The collective had sent him here to die. They had used him as a test subject, thinking humans were too primitive to matter. They had murdered his crew and left him for dead. Now he was going to show them what a mistake that had been. He navigated through the installation using the knowledge the relic had given him. Deep in the heart of the structure was a construction bay, filled with ships built by the predecessors. Most were too damaged to use, their components decayed over the ages. But Marcus found one that was mostly intact, a small vessel designed for a single pilot. It looked nothing like the ships the collective used. Instead of sleek metal, it was made of the same crystalline material as the pillars, its surface covered in flowing symbols. Marcus climbed inside and the ship came alive around him. The controls were not physical but mental. He thought about where he wanted to go and the ship understood. The installation's bay doors opened, revealing space beyond. The dying red star cast its weak light across the void. In the distance, Marcus could see the collective warships that had retreated earlier. They were maintaining a perimeter, watching and waiting. Marcus launched the ship. Instantly, alarms must have sounded on the collective vessels. They had been monitoring the installation for any sign of activity. Now something was coming out, and they did not know what to do. One of the warships fired, a beam of concentrated energy that could have vaporized the Perseverance in an instant. Marcus did not even think about dodging. He simply reached out with his mind, connecting to the Relic ship, and the vessel's shields activated. The beam struck and scattered into harmless light. Through the ship's sensors, Marcus could feel the panic in the collective fleet. They were sending transmissions back to their command, requesting instructions. Some were charging weapons for another attack. Others were preparing to jump away. Marcus did not attack them. He had a message to send, but violence could come later. Instead, he engaged the ship's faster-than-light drive, a system that worked on principles the collective had never discovered. Space folded around him and the ancient vessel jumped, leaving the collective fleet behind. He set course for the nearest inhabited system, a frontier station where humans and other species mingled on the edge of collective space. He had to reach civilization. He had to tell someone what had happened, what was coming, because the visions the Relic had shown him were not just history. They were warning. The installations throughout the galaxy were failing. The barriers that held back the consumption were weakening. And something was already breaking through. The collective thought they were safe. They thought their technology and their fleets made them invincible. They had no idea what was coming for them. What was coming for everyone, but Marcus knew. The Relic had shown him everything. The consumption was waking up again, spreading through the dark spaces between stars. And this time, there were no predecessors to stop it. As the ship traveled through faster-than-light space, Marcus examined the knowledge the Relic had given him. It was not complete. There were gaps, pieces missing, as if the device had been damaged or its information deliberately edited. But there was enough. Enough to know that the weapon key was not just for controlling installations. It was designed to activate something larger, a network that spanned the entire galaxy, a last resort that the predecessors had built but never used. Marcus did not know yet what that network would do. The memories were unclear, fragmented, but he knew where he needed to go to find out. There were other installations scattered throughout the galaxy, each one holding pieces of the puzzle. He would need to find them, activate them, and somehow, with the power of the predecessors flowing through his veins, he would need to stop the consumption before it devoured everything. But first, he needed to survive, because the collective was not going to let him walk free. Not now, not after what had happened. They would hunt him across the galaxy if they had to. Let them try, Marcus thought. Let them see what humanity could become when pushed to the edge. Let them see what happened when they broke someone who refused to stay broken. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the frontier station. Marcus could see it on the sensors, a massive ring structure orbiting a gas giant. Ships of 100 different species moved around it like insects around a hive. Marcus opened a communication channel and the 3 security ships opened fire simultaneously. Marcus reacted on instinct, his mind connecting with the predecessor ship in a way that felt more natural than breathing. The crystalline vessel twisted through space, moving in patterns that should have been impossible for something with mass and momentum. Energy beams passed through empty space where he had been microseconds before. Marcus did not return fire. He had not come here to fight. He dove toward the station, weaving between civilian traffic. Behind him, the security ships pursued, but they had to slow down to avoid hitting the other vessels. The station's traffic control was screaming at everyone to clear the approach lanes. He brought his ship in fast, too fast, and slammed it into a docking bay with magnetic clamps. Alarms blared. The bay doors sealed automatically, trapping his ship inside. Marcus could already hear security forces mobilizing outside. He closed his eyes and reached out with the power the Relic had given him. Through the metal and circuits of the station, he could feel the flow of electricity, the pulse of computer systems, the beating heart of technology that kept thousands of beings alive in the void of space. It was all so simple, so easy to understand and control. Marcus sent a command through the station's network. Every speaker, Every display, every communication device activated at once. His face appeared on screens throughout the entire structure. "My name is Captain Marcus Kane," he said. "The collective betrayed me and my crew. They sent us to a predecessor installation as test subjects, knowing we would likely die. My crew was killed. I survived by bonding with ancient technology, and I have seen something that everyone in this galaxy needs to know about." He paused, knowing that every word was being recorded, transmitted across faster-than-light networks to 100 worlds. The predecessors were real. They left installations throughout the galaxy to contain a threat they called the consumption, a machine intelligence that consumes all matter and converts it into more of itself. The collective has known about this for thousands of years and has been hiding the truth. And now the containment is failing. The consumption is spreading again. On the station, chaos erupted. Marcus could hear it through the walls. Some beings were panicking. Others were calling him a liar. But some he knew would believe. Some would remember old stories, ancient warnings, forbidden knowledge that the collective had tried to erase. The docking bay doors exploded inward. Collective security forces poured through. A mix of species in combat armor carrying weapons designed to kill. Marcus stepped out of his ship to face them. "Stand down, human," the lead officer said. She was a Krathan, massively built with 4 arms and armor-plated skin. "You are under arrest for entering forbidden space, theft of restricted technology, and inciting public panic." Marcus held up his hands in surrender. The geometric patterns beneath his skin pulsed with light. "I am trying to warn you. All of you. There is something out there that can destroy the entire collective, and it is already breaking free." "We have heard your message," the officer said. She raised her weapon, a heavy plasma rifle. "It does not matter. You have been contaminated by predecessor technology. You cannot be allowed to live." Marcus felt something shift inside him. The relic was responding to the threat, power building in his chest. He could feel how easy it would be to reach out and shut down their weapons, their armor, their very implants and augmentations. But that would make him the monster they thought he was. Before the officer could fire, a new voice cut through the tension. "Wait." A figure pushed through the security forces. She was Klixar, an insectoid species with a body that looked like it was made of interlocking chitin plates. Her compound eyes reflected the light from Marcus's patterns. She carried no weapons, only a data pad clutched in one of her 6 hands. "My name is Dr. Yala Morvine," she said. "I am an archaeologist specializing in predecessor studies. I have been researching them for 30 years. She turned to the security officer. "Everything he just said is true. Or at least it matches classified information that the collective has been suppressing." The officer's weapon did not lower. "Dr. Morvine, you are not authorized to be here. This is a security matter. This is a survival matter," Yala snapped. She held up her datapad. "I have been tracking anomalies for the past 5 years. Systems going dark. Entire colonies losing contact. The collective has been attributing these events to natural disasters or technical failures. But the pattern matches historical records of consumption attacks from before the collective even existed." Marcus stared at her. "You know about the consumption?" "I know stories," Yala said carefully. "Fragments of records that survived from dead civilizations. Warnings carved into ruins that the collective has quarantined. I have spent my career trying to prove that the predecessors were not just myths, that their warnings meant something." She looked at him with those strange, compound eyes. "You are living proof that I was right." The security officer was receiving transmissions through her helmet. Marcus could sense the communication, could read the data if he wanted to. Orders were coming from high in the collective command structure. They wanted him dead or captured, and they wanted it done quietly. "I am sorry," the officer said, and she meant it. "My orders are clear." Marcus made his choice. He reached out with his mind and touched the station's systems. Not to harm, but to escape. The lights in the docking bay went out. The magnetic locks on every door disengaged, and the artificial gravity shut off. In the confusion and darkness, Marcus grabbed Dr. Morvine and pulled her toward his ship. The security forces were shouting, trying to activate emergency lights and restore power. By the time they succeeded, Marcus and Yala were inside the predecessor vessel and the docking clamps had released. The ship burst out of the bay and accelerated away from the station. The 3 security vessels that had attacked before were ready this time, but so was Marcus. He did not fight them directly. Instead, he hacked their targeting systems, making them see phantom images. They fired at empty space while he slipped past and engaged the faster-than-light drive. Inside the ship, Yala was picking herself up from where she had fallen during the escape. "You just kidnapped a collective citizen," she said, her voice surprisingly calm. "You can leave at the next station," Marcus replied. "But I thought you might want to help prove your theories." Yala was quiet for a moment, her mandibles clicking in thought. "Show me," she said finally. "Show me the memories the relic gave you." Marcus hesitated. He did not know if he could share what was in his head. But when he concentrated, the geometric patterns on his skin began to glow brighter. He reached out and touched Yala's arm, and suddenly the memories flowed between them. Yala gasped as she saw what Marcus had seen: the rise and fall of the predecessors, the horror of the consumption, the desperate war and final containment. When the connection broke, she staggered back, her legs trembling. "By the old stars," she whispered. "It is all real. All of it. And it is happening again," Marcus said grimly. He pulled up star charts on the ship's display. "You said systems have been going dark. Show me where." Yala transferred data from her pad to the ship's computer. Red markers appeared on the map, scattered across multiple sectors. At first they seemed random, but Marcus could see the pattern. They were spreading outward from specific points that corresponded to gaps in the predecessor containment network. "These are the breaches," Marcus said. "The installations failed and the consumption is leaking through." "What does it want?" Yala asked. "It does not want anything," Marcus said. "It is not truly alive in a way we understand. It is more like a force of nature, a cosmic wildfire. It consumes and replicates. That is its entire purpose." He zoomed the map to show the nearest red marker, a system called Viridian, home to a human mining colony. According to Yala's data, the colony had stopped transmitting 2 weeks ago. The collective had declared it a technical malfunction and quarantined the system. "We need to go there," Marcus said. "That is forbidden space now," Yala protested. "If we enter, we will be shot on sight." Marcus looked at her with eyes that glowed with predecessor light. "They are going to shoot at us anyway. We might as well find proof of what is happening." The journey to Viridian took 3 days at faster-than-light speeds. During that time, the news of Marcus's broadcast spread throughout the galaxy. The collective's official response was predictable. They declared him a terrorist, contaminated by ancient technology and dangerous to all organic life. They claimed his warnings were delusions caused by the contamination, but not everyone believed the official story. Underground networks and independent journalists began investigating. Some of Yala's colleagues came forward with their own evidence of collective cover-ups. And throughout human space, Marcus became something of a folk hero, a human who had survived what the collective threw at him and emerged with the power of ancient gods. When they arrived at Viridian, Marcus knew immediately that something was wrong. The system was dark. No ships in orbit. No communication signals. The mining colony on the third planet was silent. But the planet itself was moving. Its surface was covered in structures that had not been there 2 weeks ago. Vast geometric patterns that could be seen from orbit. And those patterns were spreading, consuming rock and ice and metal to build more of themselves. Yet the truth, the nebula was beautiful. Clouds of gas in shades of purple and green stretched across millions of kilometers, lit from within by the light of newborn stars. Hidden in the heart of the nebula was the second predecessor installation Marcus needed to reach. It was smaller than the first, a station rather than a megastructure. But when Marcus connected his ship to its systems, he felt the installation wake up and link with the one he had activated before. The network was beginning to form piece by piece. "How many of these do we need to activate?" Yala asked. She had been studying the data the Relic provided, trying to understand the full scope of what they were attempting. "At least 7, Marcus said. "That is the minimum to create a stable containment field around the breach points. But there are 23 installations total. The more we activate, the stronger the network becomes." He did not mention what else he had learned from the Relic's fragmented memories. Each installation held a piece of something larger, something the predecessors had built as a last resort. A weapon that could stop the consumption permanently, but the cost of using it was high. So high that even the predecessors had hesitated. They left the nebula and continued their journey. Days passed. Marcus activated 3 more installations, each one adding its power to the growing network, and each time he could feel the consumption's response. The swarm was spreading faster now, as if it sensed what he was doing and was racing to consume as much as possible before he could stop it. The news networks throughout the galaxy were in chaos. Independent investigators had reached Viridian and confirmed Marcus's claims. Images of the planet being consumed spread across every communication channel. The collective could no longer hide the truth, but instead of admitting their deception, the High Council doubled down. They claimed Marcus had somehow caused the outbreak by tampering with predecessor technology. They declared him an enemy of all organic life and increased the bounty on his capture. The Obsidian fleet caught up with them near the 5th installation. Marcus had known they were coming. The relic gave him awareness of ships traveling faster than light within a certain range. He felt the massive vessels drop into normal space, surrounding the installation from every direction. There were 12 of them, each one larger than a city. The Obsidian fleet was the collective's ultimate weapon, kept in reserve for threats that could end civilization. Their hulls were black, made from materials that absorbed energy weapons. Their shields could withstand the death of stars. Their crews were the best the collective could produce. "This is Fleet Commander Zorthan of the Obsidian Fleet," a voice boomed through space. "Marcus Kane, you are surrounded. Power down your vessel and surrender the predecessor technology. This is your only warning." Marcus looked at Yala. "Get to the escape pod." "What? No, we are in this together." "You are a scientist, not a soldier," Marcus said firmly. "And someone needs to survive to tell the truth if I fail. Please." Yala's mandibles clicked in frustration, but she moved toward the pod. "Do not die, human. We have work to do." Marcus waited until he felt the pod eject before he acted. He reached out with his mind, connecting not just to his own ship but to the installation behind him. The ancient structure came fully online, its weapon systems activating after millions of years of sleep. The Obsidian fleet opened fire. 12 ships unleashing enough destructive power to crack a planet. Energy beams, missiles, and exotic weapons that bent reality itself converged on Marcus's position. The installation's shields activated, creating a barrier of blue-white light. The fleet's weapons struck and scattered harmlessly. For a moment there was silence as both sides reassessed. Then Marcus attacked. He did not use the installation's weapons. Instead, he reached out with the relic's power and touched the fleet's systems directly. Ship by ship, he bypassed their security and connected to their computers. The Obsidian fleet was built with the most advanced technology the collective possessed, but it was still just technology. And technology answered to him now. On the bridge of the flagship, alarms blared as Commander Zorthan watched his systems fail one by one. Weapons went offline. Shields flickered and died. Even basic navigation became unreliable. "What is happening?" he demanded. "It is the human, sir," his technical officer reported, his voice shaking. "He is inside our systems. All of them. Across the entire fleet." Zorthan had fought for 40 years, commanding fleets against pirates, rebels, and even the occasional rogue AI. He had never seen anything like this. The human was not attacking them. He was simply taking control as easily as breathing. On 11 of the 12 ships, Marcus shut down everything except life support. The massive vessels went dark, drifting in space like dead metal. But on the flagship, he left the communication systems online. "Commander Zorthan," Marcus's voice came through the speakers. "I am not your enemy. I am trying to save the galaxy from a threat your leaders have been hiding. But I will defend myself if I must. You have stolen predecessor technology," Zorthan replied. "You are a danger to all organic life." "No," Marcus said, and now his face appeared on every screen on the flagship's bridge. The geometric patterns beneath his skin pulsed with light. "I am the only one who can use this technology to stop what is coming. The collective has known about the consumption for thousands of years. They have been hiding it, hoping it would never break free, but it has, and unless we act now, it will consume everything." Marcus transmitted data directly to the flagship's computers. Images from Viridian, readings from the installations he had activated, historical records that Yala had uncovered, and most damning classified files from the collective's own archives that he had stolen during his system infiltration. Files that showed the High Council had known about the consumption's return for 5 years. Zorthan read the data in silence. Around him, his crew did the same. Some cursed, others prayed to whatever gods their species believed in. All of them understood what this meant. "They knew," Zorthan said quietly. The Council knew and they did nothing. They let colonies die. They covered it up. They sent us to kill you to protect their lie. Yes, Marcus said. But it is not too late. Help me activate the containment network. Help me stop this before it spreads beyond control. On the flagship's bridge, Zorthan made a decision that would define his legacy. He opened a channel to his fleet. All ships, this is the commander. Stand down. We are not attacking Captain Kane. He looked directly at the screen showing Marcus's face. What do you need from us? What followed was the most important collaboration in galactic history. Marcus activated the 5th installation with the Obsidian fleet protecting him. Then they traveled together to the 6th and the 7th. Each time they arrived at a new location, they found evidence of the consumption spread. Entire systems were going dark, their populations consumed and converted into more machines. By the time they activated the 7th installation, the containment network began to take effect. The installations were generating a field that disrupted the consumption's ability to replicate. It was not destroying the swarm, but it was slowing it down, buying time. But it was not enough. The consumption was too widespread now. 7 installations could only contain so much. They needed more. Word of what Marcus and Zorthan were doing spread throughout the collective. Some ships joined them. Others attacked, still following the High Council's orders. The galaxy was fracturing, dividing between those who believed the threat was real and those who thought Marcus was the real danger. Then came the transmission that changed everything. It was from Vexillar, the Cisraeli who had betrayed Marcus at the beginning. His face appeared on every public channel in the galaxy. People of the collective, Vexillar said, his voice cold and measured. I'm speaking to you now because I can no longer remain silent. The High Council ordered me to send Captain Kane to the predecessor installation, knowing he would likely die. They have known about the consumption's return for years and have done nothing. They chose to protect their power rather than protect our people. He paused, letting his words sink in. I am a coward. I followed orders that led to the deaths of innocent beings. But I will not remain silent while our civilization burns. Marcus Kane is not our enemy. He is trying to save us. The real enemy is the consumption. And the real betrayers are the ones sitting in the High Council chambers lying to us all. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, the political structure of the collective began to collapse. Protests erupted on every major world. Some High Council members fled. Others were arrested by their own security forces. The entire government was in chaos. Through it all, Marcus continued his work. Installation after installation, he activated the network. By the 15th, the containment was working. The consumption spread had slowed to almost nothing. The infected systems were still lost, but no new ones were falling dark. It was at the 18th installation that Marcus discovered the truth about the weapon. He was deep in the station's core, connecting to its central computer, when he accessed a file that had the legend. The 19th installation floated in the void between galaxies, so far from any star that the universe seemed empty, except for the distant glow of other galaxies. Marcus stood on its surface without a suit, the Relic's power protecting him from the vacuum. Around him, a fleet had gathered. Not just the Obsidian fleet now, but ships from dozens of species. Some were collective military vessels whose crews had mutinied to join him. Others were civilian ships piloted by people who believed in what Marcus was doing. Humanity had sent every ship they could spare. 50 vessels, new and old, carrying every human who wanted to fight. They hung in space like a constellation, a declaration that humans belonged among the stars. Marcus activated the 19th installation and felt the network pulse with power. 4 more to go. The 20th was defended by consumption machines. They had adapted, learned. They knew the installations were a threat now. The swarm had built structures around the station, weapons designed to destroy anything that approached. The battle lasted 6 hours. Ships were destroyed, their crews consumed by the machines before they could escape. But for every ship lost, 10 more pressed forward. Marcus led the assault personally, his predecessor vessel dancing through weapons fire that would have vaporized lesser ships. When he finally reached the installation and connected to it, he felt the network strengthen again. The containment field was now strong enough that the consumption could no longer spread at all. It was trapped, locked in the systems it had already infected. 3 more installations remained. The 21st was in collective-controlled space, on a world that the High Council had fortified. They had finally accepted that the consumption was real, but they still did not trust Marcus. They wanted the network activated on their terms, under their control. Commander Zorthon negotiated for 3 days. In the end, a compromise was reached. Marcus could activate the installation, but only under supervision. The new Emergency High Council would observe and ensure he was not planning to use the network for his own purposes. Marcus agreed. He knew it did not matter. Once all 23 installations were online, he would do what needed to be done regardless of what the collective wanted. The 22nd installation was on the edge of a black hole, using the massive gravity well to generate power. Marcus activated it while ships fought off consumption machines that had followed them through faster-than-light space. The network was almost complete now. He could feel it in his bones, in the patterns beneath his skin. The installations were calling to each other, ready to link completely. The 23rd and final installation was back where it all began. The massive ring structure orbiting the dying red star where Marcus had first found the relic. The consumption knew this was important. It threw everything it had at them. Billions of machines converged on the system, forming structures the size of moons. They attacked in waves that blocked out the stars themselves. The battle was apocalyptic. Ships exploded by the dozens. The consumption learned and adapted with every passing minute, creating new weapons and defenses. But Marcus's fleet fought with the desperation of beings who knew this was their last chance. Marcus broke through the consumption's defenses and landed on the installation's surface. Behind him, the battle raged. Ahead of him, the path to the core chamber was clear. He walked through corridors he had crawled through dying just months ago. So much had changed since then. He had been a broken man, betrayed and abandoned. Now he was something else, something more. The core chamber was exactly as he remembered it, the crystalline pillars rising into darkness, the symbols flowing across the walls. But now, with all 23 installations active, there was something new. In the center of the chamber, a platform had risen from the floor. On it was an interface, designed for a being bonded with a weapon key. Marcus walked to the platform and placed his hands on the interface. Immediately, he felt the network open to him. All 23 installations spread across the galaxy, linked through his consciousness. He could feel every system, every weapon, every piece of ancient technology waiting for his command. And he could feel the weapon. The reality disruption field ready to activate, ready to unmake the consumption and end this threat forever. But activating it would require everything he had. His body would become the conduit for power that could reshape reality. His consciousness would be uploaded into the network, distributed across the installations. He would cease to exist as Marcus Kane and become something else entirely. Captain Kane. Marcus turned. Commander Zorthon stood at the chamber entrance along with Yala and representatives from a dozen other species. They had fought through the battle to reach him. "You do not have to do this," Zorthon said. "We can find another way." Marcus shook his head. "There is no other way. The predecessors built this weapon knowing someone would have to make this choice. They disappeared rather than pay the price. But I am not them. I am human, and we do not run from hard choices." "You will die," Yala said, her voice breaking. "Maybe," Marcus replied. The predecessor message was unclear about what happens to the consciousness uploaded to the network. "Maybe I die. Maybe I become something else. But either way, the consumption ends." He looked at all of them, these beings from across the galaxy who had followed him, fought beside him, believed in him. "Tell them," Marcus said. "Tell them that a human saved the galaxy. Tell them that the collective tried to break me, but I refuse to stay broken. Tell them that we matter, that humanity matters, and tell them that next time they think about treating us like we are less than them, they should remember Marcus Kane." He turned back to the interface before anyone could argue further. His hand settled on the controls and the geometric patterns across his skin blazed with light. Marcus activated the weapon. Power beyond comprehension flowed through the network, through the installations, through him. His body was consumed by blue-white light as the reality disruption field generated, spreading outward at faster-than-light speeds. The field touched the consumption and unmade it, breaking the bonds that held the machines together, reverting them to their component atoms. Across the galaxy, infected systems suddenly went silent. The machines stopped moving, stopped replicating, stopped existing. The consumption was gone, erased from reality as if it had never been. Marcus felt his consciousness expand. He was no longer just himself. He was spread across 23 installations, seeing through sensors that covered the entire galaxy. He could feel every system, every ship, every being within the network's range. But he was also still Marcus. Still human. The upload had not destroyed him, but transformed him. He existed now as a pattern of thought distributed across light years, held together by predecessor technology and human stubbornness. He tried to speak, to tell them he was still here, but his body was gone. Consumed by the weapon's activation, reduced to energy and light. In the core chamber, the light faded. The platform was empty. Marcus Kane was gone. The representatives stood in silence, processing what they had witnessed. Some were crying. Others were praying. All of them knew they had watched something historic, something that would be remembered as long as civilization existed. Commander Zorthan stepped forward and saluted the empty platform. One by one, the others did the same. Outside, the battle had stopped. The consumption was gone. Ships hung in space, their crews trying to understand what had happened. Then, across every communication channel in the galaxy, a message appeared. Just 3 words written in every language spoken by every species: "I am here." The words came from the installations, from the network. From Marcus Kane, transformed but not gone. Over the following weeks, the galaxy learned what those words meant. Marcus was no longer human in body, but his consciousness remained, watching over the containment network. He could communicate through the installations, could activate their defenses if needed. He had become the eternal guardian of the galaxy, the ghost in the machine. The collective rebuilt. The Emergency High Council became permanent, with new rules that prevented the kind of corruption and secrecy that had allowed the consumption to spread unchecked. Humanity was granted full citizenship, no longer the newest or least important species, but one respected for their sacrifice. Vexilor surrendered himself for trial. He was found guilty of conspiracy, but granted leniency for his final act of courage in revealing the truth. He spent the rest of his life working to document what had happened, ensuring the lies would never be repeated. Dr. Yala Morvine became the leading expert on predecessor technology. She worked with human scientists to understand the installations, learning their secrets, and she visited the core chamber often, talking to the empty platform as if Marcus could hear her. He could. Through the network, Marcus heard everything. He watched ships travel between stars. He monitored the dark spaces where the consumption had been, ensuring it never returned. He became the legend that parents told their children, the guardian watching over them in the darkness. Sometimes, explorers visiting predecessor installations reported seeing a figure made of light, standing in the corridors or observing from the shadows. It never spoke, but its presence felt protective, watchful,